It started when I moved into that old apartment on Thompson Street. The place had been vacant for years. Dust gathering on every corner. Ivy creeping along the broken bricks outside the windows. It was affordable. Too good to be true in a city like this. But I didn't question it. I'd just been laid off. And as far as I was concerned, it was a blessing. What I didn't realize then was that the previous tenants had all left behind something. Shadows that haunted every inch of space. Whispers that slid through the walls. And mirrors that, well, I'll get to that. The apartment wasn't huge. Just a single bedroom. A narrow kitchen. And a small, dimly lit bathroom. But there was something oddly captivating about the bathroom mirror. It was an antique piece, oddly large for such a cramped room. The glass slightly warped as if holding memories from another time. I should have questioned it, but I thought nothing of it. At first. Chapter 1, The Whispering Glass. The whispers started on the third night. I'd been tossing and turning, half awake, caught in that space between sleep and awareness. The voice was faint, a mere breath of sound, but clear as day. He's watching. I shot up, the words lingering in the air around me. My heart was pounding as I scanned the darkness. There was no one else in the room. Nothing but the murmur of the city outside my window. I dismissed it as a figment of my imagination. Just a remnant of some forgotten dream. The next morning, I decided to check the mirror in the bathroom. Nothing seemed unusual. I chalked it up to the exhaustion from moving and adjusting to a new place. But the whispers returned that night. This time, louder. "Help me," the voice whimpered. "Please. You have to help me." The voice was pleading, desperate, and so real that I felt a pang of empathy. I lay still, listening, my pulse racing. The next morning, I examined the mirror again, this time closer, studying the warped edges. Something caught my eye, a faint shape just beneath the glass. A silhouette that seemed to shift ever so slightly. The hair on my arms stood up, the outline of a face. Chapter 2, The Reflection. I convinced myself that I was imagining things. But as the days passed, the whispers grew clearer, and the face became more visible. It was like some haunted image lurking in the silver, its mouth moving silently, pleading for release. I tried to ignore it, but I'd catch glimpses of it whenever I passed by. Its eyes wide, hollow, staring at me with a look that cut through to my core. Desperation drove me to investigate. I spent hours combing through local records, digging up any information I could find on the apartment. It turned out that people had gone missing here, tenants disappearing without a trace. But no one had ever connected them, as if the building itself had erased any evidence of their existence. I spoke with the landlord, Mr. Grayson, a hunched, wiry old man with a gaze that seemed too sharp, too knowing. I asked him about the mirror. "Oh, that," he said, his voice rasping with amusement. "It's been here longer than I have. Some folks say it's cursed, but I don't believe in that nonsense." His smirk was unnerving, and I left the conversation feeling more uneasy than before. But my curiosity got the better of me. That night, I found myself standing in front of the mirror again, watching the face. The voice, soft but clear, spoke once more. "If you don't help me, you'll be next." Chapter 3, The Descent. Sleep became impossible. Every night, the voice would grow louder, the figure in the mirror closer. I could see more details now, her hair, long and dark, her eyes, wild and haunted, and her hands, pressed flat against the glass as if trying to break through. Desperate, I began to talk back. "What do you want?" I whispered, heart racing. "Who are you?" But she never answered my questions directly. All she'd say was, "Help me. He's coming." I couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone was indeed coming. I started seeing shadows where there should be none, feeling an oppressive presence watching me even during the day. The walls felt like they were closing in, and I was barely sleeping an hour a night. One evening, I covered the mirror with a sheet, hoping to quiet the whispers. But when I turned around, it was gone. The mirror was uncovered, and her face was closer than ever. Chapter 4: The Landlord's Secret. Desperation pushed me to confront Mr. Grayson again. I found him in the building's basement, rummaging through old, dusty boxes. When he saw me, he gave a knowing smile, his eyes glinting in the dim light. "You've seen her, haven't you?" he asked, as if he'd been expecting this all along. I demanded to know who she was. His smirk faded, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of fear in his eyes. "They say she was the first tenant here," he murmured, almost to himself. "Catherine. She vanished, just like all the others. But her spirit, she's trapped. She's always watching, always waiting. But she can't escape. Not without..." "Not without what?" I pressed. "Not without someone to take her place." His words hung heavy in the air, and a chill crept down my spine. He was staring at me now, his gaze unnervingly intense. "She can only leave if she has someone else. That's the rule." I backed away slowly, my mind racing, trying to make sense of it. As I turned to leave, he called out, his voice low and cold, "She's chosen you." Chapter 5: The Haunting Finale. That night, the whispers became screams. I could feel the walls vibrating, the air thick with a suffocating tension. And then, through the darkness, I saw her face in the mirror, closer than ever, her mouth wide open in a silent scream. "Help me. Please. Help me." I couldn't breathe. I stumbled back, but my feet seemed rooted to the floor, unable to escape the pull of her gaze. Her hand pressed harder against the glass, her eyes wild with desperation. And then, something changed. Her expression shifted from desperation to anger, her eyes narrowing as she stared at me, her mouth twisting into a sinister smile. "You didn't help me," she whispered, her voice low and venomous. "Now it's your turn." Before I could react, the room went pitch black. I couldn't see or hear anything except my own rapid breathing. When the light returned, I was standing in front of the mirror. But something was wrong. The reflection staring back at me wasn't mine. It was her. My own face was gone, replaced by her twisted, hollow gaze staring back from the other side of the glass. I screamed, pounding against the glass. But it was no use. I was trapped, unable to escape the confines of the mirror. Just like her. And on the other side, the figure of me, her, smiled. She looked back once, a glint of satisfaction in her eyes, before turning away and leaving me in the endless silence. Epilogue: The New Tenant. Mr. Grayson put out a new advertisement the following week. The apartment on Thompson Street was available again, with its antique mirror intact, ready for its next tenant.